Before we get into this episode, I want to talk to you about something that's completely changed the way I think about coaching. I've been around this game a long time, and like you, I've spent weekends buried in film, grading by hand, chasing tendencies, and still wondering if we missed something. That's why I believe in what modern football technology is doing. It's not theory, it's a coach built platform that delivers real time intel. You'll see what's working, what needs fixing, and where the edge is, while the game's still being played. Programs like St. John Bosco, Lake Travis, and Bishop Gorman already trust it to stay ahead. Stop guessing, start out coaching. Book your free demo now at teammofo.com.
Acura's all-new ADX, a compact SUV that isn't just built for one thing, it's precision crafted for everything. To escape the grind with available all-wheel drive. To go with your flow with available Google built-in.
Hey Google, turn it up.
Okay, turning up the volume. And crafted to be heard with an available Bang & Olufsen premium sound system. The all-new Acura ADX, crafted to match your energy. Acura, precision crafted performance.
Take your vibes and go, 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 go.
Google is a trademark of Google LLC.
We just came up with a mantra that nobody works harder than the Bulldogs. That was like a big theme for us. We became a year-round program. If you weren't in a sport, and we do the same thing in Muskego, you're in the weight room. It became a place where it was a great social place, but also just the lifting. Our coaches, if they weren't coaching a sport, would be in the weight room 1 or 2 days a week. I was in there every day of the week unless I had like a family commitment, which, wasn't often where I have to miss. But our goal was to be the hardest working team in the off season. We felt we won the off seasons. We felt we were a little bit ahead of our times with speed and agility, plyometrics. And so we would get, 100% attendance, 100% buy-in from the players. And then we just use that as our mantra that nobody works harder than us. And we just try to turn every negative into a positive.
Welcome to the Turnaround Series presented by CoachTube, the go-to platform for coaches who want to learn from the best. If you're working to turn a program around, you know that success isn't just about effort. It's about having the right resources, a proven plan, and access to insights that make a difference. Learning from those who have done it before, using detailed and tested strategies, can be the key to transforming your team. That's exactly what we're bringing you in this series, hosted by Michael Chavez. We'll break down key decisions, leadership strategies, and cultural shifts that have helped coaches rebuild and redefine their programs. And with CoachTube, you don't just hear about these turnarounds, you gain access to the same on-demand training and expertise that have fueled real coaching success. Let's get to it. This is the Turnaround Series, powered by CoachTube.
Today, we're excited to have Coach Ken Krause on the Turnaround Podcast. My name is Michael Chavez, head coach at Troy High School in Southern California, and I am graced with the privilege of hosting the series through the Coach and Coordinator Podcast. Coach Krause has led 2 amazing turnarounds in his career. First, at his alma mater, Coach Krause inherited a struggling West Allis Central program, his alma mater, and led them to a 68-41 record and a conference championship. In 2008, Coach was hired to rebuild the struggling Muskego football program. As such, he inherited a 2-7 team with a lot of struggles and slowly but surely turned them into a state powerhouse, going 145-49 in his career there and earning 2 official state championships, 1 unofficial, 1 state runner-up, and 7 conference titles. Coach Krause, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast. Thank you for joining us.
Well, it's an absolute honor to be on here. I know our coaching staff listens to the coach and coordinator quite a bit, and we've definitely gotten some good information and some reaffirmation and some little ideas that we've stole. So thank you. It's a big honor to represent Muskego football in the community.
I love it. And just a side note, audience, I purchased Coach's Wing T courses about 4 or 5 years ago and absolutely loved what he did there. And I'm excited to have this podcast with him. So Coach Krause, let's start from the beginning. Let's start at West Allis Central. Share us with the audience your experience of turning that struggling program around, please.
That was a complete blast, a lot of fun. Took over a program that had won 4 games in 3 years. I did go to school there. They had a great coaching staff that was together for a long time, and they all kind of left together. And then there was a 3-year gap between that staff and when I took over. So again, when I took over, the program was down. They'd won 4 games, 3 years. The JV team did not win a game. That's the last season before I became head coach. The freshman team won 1 game. So we had a lot of rebuilding to do. The entire staff that coached previously didn't come back. So I started from scratch. What I ended up doing, I was 23 years old. And I just hired a bunch of former players that played at West Allis Central. I found some guys that wanted to be teachers or going to become teachers. Hired Steve Lucknick, my DC. He was 26. I was head coach there 11 years. He was my DC the entire time, became a teacher in the building. I grabbed my offensive line coach, Barry Johnson. He was with me all 11 years, FI-Ed teacher. My two JV coaches, Dax Rodriguez and Scott Otto, were with me. Dax with me 10 of the years. Scott Otto was with me up until he became a head coach at another school. And then we grabbed Rick Hopper, another teacher in our building, actually elementary school that we ended up grabbing. So I had the same core group of coaches, to make a long story short, a lot of former players that played at the school, so they had huge pride. And then as I kept coaching, one of the strategies that I used to help turn the program around is I would hire former players to come back and coach. And even if they had just graduated, I had guys come back and coach the following season. And I felt like that was a big asset because former players and former players you coach that went to that high school have such pride, and they're going to give you the best effort they have, and they're going to believe in the program. Even when you're rebuilding the program, you're going to have some challenges. So when you got guys that really believe in what's going on and you trust them because they're former players, trust their opinions, they're like family to you. I had the same staff. I really feel like for both programs, we talk Muskego and Central, but you're only as good as the people you surround yourself with. And both programs, I've had the same core staff with me forever. That was a huge asset in us turning around West Allis Central was having those guys there. And each program had a different way of turning it around. At Central, I heard a bunch of young guys, energetic guys, and they all stayed with me. And like I said, they were former players that played there. And then eventually players that played for me became coaches as well. And then our freshman staff, we had all teachers. Weren't former players, but guys that played college football were teachers, great leaders. A lot of those guys ended up becoming administrators as they got older. So we had a great freshman staff who laid the groundwork. And then our older coaches were outstanding as well. So that was a big component.
Oh, that's awesome, Coach. Tell us, with so much losing going on, how in the world did you change the mindset from, a team that it seems like I think it was 2-7 you inherited, I think, right, at varsity team? Mm-hmm. And then no wins or one win, I think, at the lower level. I mean, that's a lot of losing. How did you change that mentality? What specific things did you do to get the kids to start to believe that they would become winners or that they could win in general?
Yeah, we just came up with a mantra that nobody works harder than the Bulldogs. That was like a big theme for us. We became a year-round program. If you weren't in a sport, and we do the same thing in Muskego, you're in the weight room. It became a place where it was a great social place, but also just the lifting. Our coaches, if they weren't coaching a sport, would be in the weight room 1 or 2 days a week. I was in there every day of the week unless I had like a family commitment, which, wasn't often where I have to miss. But our goal was to be the hardest working team in the off season. We felt we won the off seasons. We felt we were a little bit ahead of our times with speed and agility, plyometrics. And so we would get, 100% attendance, 100% buy-in from the players. And then we just use that as our mantra that nobody works harder than us. And we just try to turn every negative into a positive. When we were at West Allis, I was young, so I was a little naive, but now that I'm older, now that I reflect on it, we were socioeconomically the school, out of the 9 schools, we were definitely a 9th school with that. We didn't have any facilities. We had to run a mile to a practice facility. And instead of turning it into negative, we just told our kids, nobody's in the shape we're in. Nobody is in better shape than us. Nobody takes a mile run every day. And our kids believe that. And then we didn't even have our own home stadium. We were a 2 high school town. We had to share the stadium with the other school, and they had the stadium at their place. And so we made sure the bus rides home were the greatest celebrations ever. We made those bus rides special, making it so it wasn't like a bummer we had to take a bus to a game. We made, if we won, they wanted to hoop and holler, and every coach would lead a cheer. And our first goal, it's a 2 high school town. So we said, we got to win the town. The other side of town was perception-wise, not saying it was true, but they were maybe considered to have more benefits, having the facilities, a little more money out there. And so our number one objective was to win the town. And we were 10-1 in the 11 years I was there. We had a 9-game win streak against them. So that was like our first step. Let's make sure we're the best team in the town, win that. And then our next goal is to make the playoffs. And then year 3, we did make the playoffs. Started to build culture. A couple years later, we started like a leadership council, and then we ended up winning conference, and we got to the Final 8, stayed a couple years, almost the Final 4. And for the community we were at, that was like winning the state championship. So the biggest thing is the word believe. We use that word a lot, believe.
Yeah.
We were always the smallest team when you walk down the field, but we told our kids pound for pound, we were stronger than anybody we played. And our kids believed it. And we believed it too. We knew we put the time in. So we never made excuses. We tried to turn every negative into a positive. And our kids did run through a wall for us, and we definitely got the most out of them.
Love that, Coach. I think that's so critical for us. I mean, even as a veteran coach now, for me, I'm on year, I think, 16 as a coach and 11 as a head coach. There's so many times I find myself complaining about what I don't have instead of embracing what I do have, and then just making the best out of it. And I think that was probably something so special for that community to experience from you. I don't care what you don't have. Let's celebrate what you guys do have and let's make it a part.
Yep.
Coach, your leadership council, if I recall correctly, that's something that you feel like you did that really took your program and your culture to the next level. Give us some insight into what you did with that leadership council.
Yep. So when I took over West Dallas Central, I was 23. We had back-to-back 4 and 5 seasons, which was a huge improvement because the program was not winning at the lower levels. And then we had a playoff team, then we won a conference championship, and then we won our first playoff game. So we were feeling like we were the greatest coaches, getting the most out of these guys. And then we had a season where we had a ton of kids get suspended. It seemed like every week somebody was getting in trouble at school. We had a talented team, and we actually went 2-7, and we lost all 7 games were like close games. We very easily could have been 7-2, 8-1 if we wouldn't have had anybody get in trouble. And so I knew I had to do something differently. And that's when I became a better coach. It wasn't just about the wins and losses, it was about making the players better people. And that's really why you coach high school sports. You want to make people the best they can be and use sports as a vehicle to help them. And so we started a leadership council, and the leadership council we had then and now is completely evolved. But that was a big step in our program, trying to start to be player led, start to, talk about more than just starting and winning games, but being a good human being and how all that stuff will translate to the field. And so after that 2-7 season, we had back-to-back Final 8 and state teams, and we pulled off a bunch of upsets. We played a school that had 5 Division I football players on the team, 1 NFL player. We had no business. They had the running clock in every game and halftime. We play them in the state quarterfinal games. So 11 games, they had the running clock in every game at halftime. We were up 14-10 at halftime. We almost won. And it really was our culture. Yeah, I could talk for hours about that game, but our culture, we didn't have anybody from that team that was a division scholarship athlete. We started 15 sophomores and juniors, but culturally, our program was in a better spot. And that was where our program took the next jump. And then we were able to, when I took the job in Muskego, all the things I learned at West Dallas, I immediately did. So I immediately started a leadership council year 1 at Muskego to turn that culture around right away. And now it's real popular in lots of high schools, but I know that was a big game changer for our program when we made that change.
So Coach, it sounds like that what was happening or what had happened is you were controlling the schematic and the physical component of the program, and you were able to produce and put on the field a good team, but that you weren't sure what team was going to show up, if at all, any of your players would show up because they were going to get in trouble. And so like the way that you built consistency was to say, hey, I'm going to teach consistency. I'm going to teach you how to be a consistent person. And if I'm correct, that's what the leadership council did for you. Is that right?
Yeah, totally. It was more than just about, it was making them better human beings. And when they're better human beings, they're going to make better choices in school, the classroom, the community, at home. And it's definitely, I could talk for hours, but like we've reached a point at Muskego that we are player led completely. Our seniors take care of our sophomores. The leadership is off the charts. We've reached a point now like the starters will put the bags away and they'll coach the sophomores and they embrace the sophomores. Back maybe in the beginning, they didn't want sophomores or juniors to start. And now the best guys are going to play. And we do community service in our program. And again, I could talk for hours, but it's been a game changer. And we just keep trying to make it better every offseason, what we do, and it's evolved.
Oh, that's awesome. So, Coach, this then takes you to Muskego and share the story. Share the story of how you came to Muskego and that transition, if you don't mind. Just because I think it's important to note that, you weren't looking for the next best thing. You didn't just, jump ship. You were transitioning, and I think that's important for our listeners to hear about.
Well, to me, family's first. Unfortunately, my dad passed away at 40. I was a junior in high school, and that was really tough. But my coaches in high school is why I became a teacher and coach. They really took me on, and playing football and other sports, especially football, really helped keep me in solid grounding and positive. And these are people I still talk to this day. So I was at Central, head coach 11 years, and I had 2 boys. And then my wife wanted to try for a girl. And I said, okay, if we're going to go one more kid, and we ended up having twins, and they were boys. Went from 2 to 4 kids. And I moved out to the Muskego area about 4 years earlier, and I was driving by Muskego High School every day to West Dallas, and it was a 30-minute drive. And if if it was snowing out in bad weather, it could turn into an hour drive. And, if I didn't leave home in time, I'd be late to school. So as you probably know, or people know, youth sports is a jungle. My kids started getting into youth sports. So I wanted to, coach my kids in youth sports. I wanted to be with them. God blessed me with 4 healthy kids. So I made a toughest decision at that time. I thought I'd be a lifer at West Allis. Thought I'd be a head coach there for 30 years. But God was pulling me to apply for a teaching job in Muskego. And I talked to the head coach at Muskego, John Sterner, and he seemed to, he was like, I'm going to be here for a while. I said, hey, I'd love to coordinate something for if you want to. I just don't want to do all the off-season stuff. I don't want to do the weight room, but I love football. I love coaching. And so he ended up taking me on. And the second week of the season I coached with him, he asked me to run his defense. So I ran his defense and got really, really close to the Muskego kids and had a blast. Just again, I think fate and God, I've had that happen in my life a few times here. 5 days after the season ended, he resigned. It just reached a point where he was kind of done with it. And because I had that fall to work with the kids, I got really, really close to the kids and the families and people, all the players and parents and some coaches were reaching out like, we'd really like you to take this position as head coach. And I looked at my wife, I'm like, was this meant to be? Like, this is the only place I could be head coach because I live in the community. I'm not going to be driving far away to work. Yeah. I wanted to be a dad first. And so my wife was like, yeah, this was meant to be. And so I ended up taking the job over. And here we are 18 years later. My young sons all were like, 8, 4, and 2. And now they're all out of high school or all in college. So it's been a magnificent run. I'm really, really blessed, but I was not looking to be head coach ever again. Just, God kind of put me in this spot and it's where I was meant to be. So I've been very fortunate and blessed to teach and coach, work at Muskego.
Yeah. Coach, the transition, obviously taking over yet again a struggling program. If I'm not mistaken, the freshman team had won one game, or was it JV?
Freshman JV each had won one game that season. Yep.
Yeah. So you're taking over this program that has no winning, to draw from, to be like, hey, you guys have been successful. Let's just build on it at the lower level. And yet again, you turn the program around. And I think it's important to note your maturation in this process, because the first time, you were kind of operating in faith, like, hey, I hope we can turn it around. I hope we can turn it around. But the second time around, you knew in your mind, even if others didn't, if I recall correctly, that you guys were going to do it. And tell us about that process and those first few years of changing the mindset, changing the culture. What specific steps did you take to do that?
Yeah, I had a lot of confidence because it was the second go around. I had a blueprint from West Allis, and then I kept all the things that I know worked, and then the things that I wanted to change or implement right away, I did. Muskego was a little bit in worse shape for lots of various reasons, and so it was a lot of fun because it was such a challenge to kind of turn so many different things around. And so the first year, as I mentioned, there were only 10 juniors finished the season in a school of 1,600 kids. So the first year was just going to be laying the groundwork, put a whole new offense in the wing tee. It was the first time where it was really expected that you had to be in the weight room. The youth program was not affiliated with the high school, so we got the youth program on board with us. There was a lot of other little things. But year 2 is like you kind of mentioned, we lost a ton of close games. So many close games, and they didn't know how to win yet. And our younger levels were starting to win. And I could tell the last 3 weeks of my second season, the wing tee started to look like the wing tee that I had saw at West Allis. So I knew we were right there. We were right in the bubble. They were buying into the weight room. They were buying into doing all the off-season stuff. My coaching staff understood the culture, and we started to get some of the guys from previous staff were buying in, and then we hired some new guys. And then year 3 is when we turned it around. We averaged like 40 points a game that year, and we ended up making the playoffs. And we've just been on this unbelievable run the last 15 years. And so even though we were struggling in the win-loss department, I could see improvement. I could see things were going in the right direction. And so I was never nervous or wasn't sure. I saw things happening that were seeing progress. And finally we got those W's. And then here we go. We've become kind of a machine now for various reasons. But yeah.
Yeah, your coaches, I know you said you had some from West Allis come with you or get back on board. What roles did they play? And go into detail, what roles did they play in the turnaround with you?
Yeah, so, I think the 2 most important positions are your defense. I call the offense, so I run the wing tee, so I'm in charge of offense. So to me, your 2 most important coaches are your defensive coordinator and your offensive line coach. So I was able to grab Baron Johnson, my line coach from West Allis Central. The entire Muskego staff pretty much came back, so we really only had one opening, so I was really blessed to have him. He taught the line for 4 years, and then Eric Hetzel has coached all 17 years with me. He was his assistant, and then I was talking about former players. Colin Smith played in my first 4 teams. He came back, played college football for a year, and then came back his second year and started coaching. He's coaching me ever since. He's a teacher in a district. So he was a former player as well. And then Jim Micklig was a former player of mine from West Allis. We got him a teaching job in Muskego. He was the D coordinator for the first 7, 8, 9 years. And then Ryan Lucchese, who has just become probably the best defensive coordinator in the state. He's another former player from West Allis who luckily stayed in touch with me in college. I left while he was at Central. It was really heartbreaking to leave him and his group of guys. And fortunately, we kept in touch. And then Coach Micklig, kind of like me, at around 35 years old, gave up coaching to spend time with his kids. And then Ryan Lucchese took his spot. So there were 3 guys from West Allis who really were main cogs in the turnaround. But we've had the Muskego connection has been the other huge factor. We have so many former players from Muskego that coach on our staff. And now I have a group of former players who I coached at Muskego. So right now we either have former players on our staff or teachers in our building. That's pretty much who is on our staff. So that's been a huge help in us turning this program around. And again, I mentioned I hired some guys that played on the first couple of Muskego teams are still coaching today, 17 years later.
Wow.
So that helped turn the program around.
Yeah. Did you know it was important to hire the Muskego coaches when you were transitioning, or did it just kind of work out that way?
Well, it was a little bit different situation because at West Allis, the entire staff, the previous staff was gone. So I got to hire the whole new staff at Muskego. There was a group of coaches, they wanted to stay. And then to be honest, by the second year, there was 3 of them that they completely bought in and they stayed. And there were a group of guys that they were great human beings. We just didn't quite have the same philosophies. They were used to the old previous coach, who was a great person, great coach, but I had a whole completely different style of coaching. So the 3 guys that stayed have been with me all 17 years in huge important roles. Danny Malachnik, our strength coach, Coach Dominowski, special team coordinator. And I talked about Nick and Colin already. And these group of guys, and Eric Hetzel, our line coach, stayed with me all 17 years. So there was 3 guys that wanted to stay a part of, the new regime. And it was great to have those guys because 2 of the 3 were former players from Muskego. So they were kind of the bridge of what's gone on in the past. Let's keep the culture, keep the things that are good. Let's keep it going. Let's not lose that. I've just noticed, and for people listening, if you want to build a program, former players that coach they're game changers because they love the program. Even if you're struggling, they're not going to abandon ship. They love being a part of it, and they're loyal to the program. And if they played for you, they're going to be loyal for you. They wouldn't be coming back. They enjoy their experience. They wouldn't come back. So definitely having those guys that stuck around was a huge asset. And then we just have been adding coaches through the years. So I'm very, very fortunate. I know in the last 12 years, we've had 1 paid coach leave our staff. He's in his 70s. He had hip surgeries, could not walk on the field. And so our sustained success is just, we've had the same group of guys forever. And we've just been adding younger coaches on our staff. That'd be another key to turn around a program is that staff continuity has been huge for us.
Yeah.
What if you could get inside the heads of elite coaches and championship leaders, learning their strategies, techniques, and philosophies anytime, anywhere? That's exactly what CoachTube delivers. This isn't just another video platform. CoachTube is a technology platform built for coaches by coaches, giving you on-demand access to detailed, proven instruction straight from the best in the game. The courses you'll find here aren't created by a production company. They come directly from the coaches, state associations, and charities like Lawrence First and Goal, sharing their expertise to help others grow. And when you purchase a course, you're not just improving yourself, you're supporting those coaches and organizations who are giving back to the game. If you're a coach with knowledge to share, CoachTube makes it easy to create and distribute your own training content. Teach what you know, help others coach, and build your brand. Visit CoachTube.com to explore courses or reach out to me, Keith at CoachTube, if you're ready to share your expertise.
Do you guys do anything, Coach? Do you do anything in particular to promote that staff continuity? Or, I don't know, do you do anything at your house, or do you guys do retreats, or how do you build that?
Well, I'll be honest. When I took over West Allis, my former head coach was a Hall of Fame head football coach. And one of the things he said to me that really stuck out is, and everybody's got their own philosophies, I'm not saying my way's right or his way's right, but he said, you need to after every Friday night game, you need to celebrate or commiserate as a staff. And so one of the best things that we've done at both schools is we go out every Friday night after the games. And that way, when you have those huge wins, it's a great celebration. And when you have a tough loss, it's not like everybody's going separate ways, complaining or talking about each other behind our back. We're all together. And so when you are putting in the amount of time that we all put in, you need that time to decompress, debrief, relax. I think that's just been a game changer for us, is that I wouldn't call it a mandatory thing, but it's an expectation. It's a culture thing. I think our coaches love it. I think they, the beginning of my West Allis career, we'd always go out to a local establishment. And then since our staff was so young, once everybody started having kids, we started rotating people's houses. And then at Muskego, we've been back to going to a local establishment. They've got food for us. We have a back room. So there's always pizza and, appetizers. So everybody's hungry after the game. One thing that we've done throughout the years is we try to do some staff to get togethers in the off season. I know this off season, we just 2 weeks ago went to they call it like First and Bowl, where you throw football at bowling pins, and they've got bags there, and they've got this cornhole basketball. So we had 29 people from our coaching staff, wives, girlfriends, and coaches at this. We almost had the whole staff there. And so we do try to build unity amongst our staff. I think a lot of the guys would say we're best friends. We're close to each other.
Yeah.
We love coaching kids. I think part of it is the social part, the friendships. And I know some guys have stood at each other's weddings, and some of the coaches, all the coaches on the staff are like my best friends, and I trust them so much. And I think that's another huge component. The staffs that stick together win, and if you're kind of going in your own silos, that's when problems have. And we also do a good job. Like, we met in January, so November, December this year. Usually every November, December, I try to meet with every coach. They fill out a coach's evaluation. And then this year we met in January, and it was a great meeting. Everybody got things off their chest. I mean, some were real positive. Some were just things that guys had we want to also be an open opportunity for guys to vent if they didn't like something. And it's a couple of months after the season, so guys got time to decompress. And so that was a powerful meeting. We've done it every so often throughout the years, and we did it this year, and it was definitely been a game changer for our staff and get us a lot closer together. And so, my goal is a couple times in off season, get everybody together. It's tough with family and stuff, but if you give everybody advance warning, better chance for everybody there.
Yeah, I think that's so neat, Coach. The thing you highlighted about the local establishment having food ready for you, that is so awesome. Was that done prompted by you? Was that the restaurant just saying, hey, or the establishment saying, hey, we want to do this for your staff? How did that come about? Was it organic or?
I can't quite remember, but I'll give credit to Coach Colin Smith. Currently, one thing that I think I do well, and I think our staff does well, is I delegate a lot of things and try to put people in spots of strength. And Coach Smith, he loves doing it. So he will contact the establishment the day before, because normally they're going to have their kitchen closed a lot sooner, and they know they're going to get a nice amount of business coming in. So he will contact them, and he'll make sure that we have, and he'll ask all the coaches, what do you guys want? So I think it's just another fun thing. Everybody's hungry. Everybody's looking forward to it, especially after big wins. And so it's evolved through the years, but that's currently where it's at. But I know when we first started, it was definitely, we'd go to a place that had food, beverages. And now at this place, Pop's Pub in Muskego, fantastic job. They have the food ready for us. It's hot, it's warm. It's great because, if you're getting on a bus for a road game at 4:30 and now it's 10:30 at night, you're starving.
Yeah.
It's great bonding.
That's awesome. Coach, tell me about what the turnaround has meant to the Muskego community. You being a part of it, you've experienced that. What have you noticed, I guess, in the community in regards to the program that you've been able to build there?
Well, it's just the community is so connected. Muskego is a one high school town, and so we are far enough away from Milwaukee, which is a major city, that we are a form of entertainment. Come so far in 17 years, we are an event on Friday nights. When I first started at Muskego, there'd be about 50 to 100 fans at a game. And by year 3, we had a small set of bleachers, home side. People were putting blankets on the bleachers, like on Thursday night to get seats. Then it became Wednesday night, then Tuesday night, and people were starting to fight over the seats. There was just not enough room. And so they eventually had to build new bleachers on the other side.
Wait a second, Coach. Did you say that people were fighting for seats several days ahead of a game?
Yes. It was kind of crazy, but cool, if it makes sense.
Yeah.
And I worked there, and I'll be honest, I had to put blankets down for my own wife. She'd be getting upset with me. Luckily, I teach her. I go to her at lunch. I'd be, and we were winning, and more and more people were coming. So it forced, we had to build stands. And we made our home side the other side and built a huge amount of stands. And those stands are still packed. And now we've had games where we've had 5,000-6,000 people.
Wow.
We have fireworks end of our games now. We have a tunnel where the kids run through, and there's just all this, big, fireworks and explosions. So it went from nobody at the games, no enthusiasm. We have the best band in the state. We've got a 300-member band that comes to every game. Our band's very close to our football program. They're at the game. Our pom-poms, our cheerleaders. It's become an event, and for $5, it's great. And we've had a huge home field advantage. I lose track of some of these stats, but we didn't lose a game at home from 2018 through 2021 or 2022, for a long time. And that's when we got the bleachers and the scoreboard, and we got a big screen TV there. Our facilities have definitely, Ryan McMillan, a ton of credit, our AD, helping push to get all that, and Todd Irvine, our superintendent principal, just making those things happen. It's an event now. And what's cool about our program, you talk about making our program close, is you can go up north. Like we're down in the southeastern part of Wisconsin. You can go up north. We got a bunch of deer hunters, and they can be at a bar or something. And if they're wearing something Muskego, the average sports fan is going to know Muskego football. I mean, that's a credit to our community. We have a great youth program. Our youth program is, we got ridiculous numbers. We have 2 teams, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade. And we have kids starting tackle football in 1st grade. And so football's become a big fabric of our community. They now have the games on TV at local establishments. If it's raining out or something, they got the games on TV, which sometimes I don't like. I want them at the game, but if the weather's a little not the greatest, people might go head over there. But it's definitely something that everybody's really, really proud of, and very, very blessed to be there. But what's gone on over the last 17 years is remarkable, the changes.
So, Coach, you're at this point where you're having success, and that's obvious. In contrast, what did success look like for you in year 2 or 3 at Muskego? And has it changed? Has success and the definition of it changed 15 years later from year 2? Tell us about that. Has your definition of success changed, or you say, no, it's the same thing, or whatever it may be, or there's nuanced, whatever?
I think it's the same thing. And I think, as for me personally, I just try to keep growing. I'm big on, I think you learn from 2 resources: the people you meet and the books you read. So I'm constantly, meeting with people now with podcasts. It's so accessible to pop on a podcast. If I'm working out, exercising, I can listen to things. I'm a voracious reader. I love reading. I have a goal every day to read 15 to 30 minutes a day. I just try to keep up with the most recent, trends. And so I still define success the same way. Ultimately, let's be honest, you want to win. You're not putting all this time not to win, but when you're winning, kids buy in more. I think you can have a bigger impact on them, and then you can teach them all those skills that they're going to take the rest of their life. High school football is done at 18, but they're going to live till 80. So what I define as success is when former players come back and say thank you, invite me to a wedding, shoot me a text. During the football season, with texting, there's a lot of former players that are reaching out and sending messages, and hearing their success and how well they're doing. We had a lot of guys going to the military, and they're doing really well because they feel like, I would say it's easy, but they're just so much more prepared than everyone else that's in the military. And I'll have guys who run businesses. We just had a youth clinic. A player from my very, very first team, 1996. I used to always I've always said this for like 30 years, the minute I'm not getting on you is the minute you should be nervous. If I'm not getting on you, that might mean I don't care, right? I mean, if I'm not giving, so sometimes kids think they're getting yelled at, but really it's love and it's caring and accountability. And so I ran into a former player on my first team who's now coaching football in our city. He goes, I own a car dealership. I use that same line that you taught me my senior year. He tells his employees at work, like, if I'm not getting on you to make you better, then I'd be worried as an employee. So when former players come back and tell me those stories, that's success. But winning helps because, when you're winning, people buy in more. So it's the combination of winning and teaching them life skills together. That's a pretty powerful force. So that's how I define success, is when players come back and they tell you that. I've had kids write me letters, and, I'm doing this now in my life. And part of my success as a parent is remembering being coached by you. And sometimes kids will say, like, man, Coach, I was so sorry. I was so hard to coach, but I'm so much better now because of it. And sometimes I laugh because I'm like, yeah, you really weren't that hard to coach. But they probably we were pushing them harder than anyone else has ever pushed them. So I always tell the football guys, we start film after school, and the first thing I always say to them, this is the best class of the day right now. This is the real world. You're going to get knocked down. You don't get to take a retake test. You're going to retake quiz. Like, you lose the game Friday night, we don't get to play them again and redo it, So to me, that's how I define success, is when they're coming back and sharing stories and knowing you had an impact on them. That's probably one of my favorite things.
I love that. Coach, I have 2 more questions for you. Man, one of them is going to be so awesome for you to answer. 7 state championships in 11 years. Sorry, conference championships, 2 state championships, 1 unofficial. That's a lot of winning. And that expectation, it can be tempting to have it haunt you and kind of change the dynamics of things. How have you remained focused on your main goals? And how have you kind of, I guess, closed out that noise or put it in perspective to help you stay on course?
Well, I think that's when your coaching staff just has to really be united. The one thing that's been interesting by having all these winning seasons and stuff is then people just think that's going to naturally happen. And so we had a 41 game winning streak between 18 and 21, and people got used to that. And so we had 3 straight years of 10-2. And when we've lost some games, sometimes it's a morgue for people. And we just got to be thankful and grateful for what we have. And each team is its own set of natural ability, natural talent. And so we've talked a lot as a coaching staff this offseason that how important it is that we have to stick together. And because now we've reached the point, if we do lose, people sometimes are like, what's going on? Where earlier on in the Muskego career, 5-4, 6-3 season was awesome. Like, that was a great year. And now a 10-2 season might be like, well, what happened? And it's like, well, we don't have those same guys that we won that 41 straight with. So,
Coach, tell the story real quick about the person that saw you in the grocery store.
Yeah, that was kind of an interesting thing. We've always been climbing, and people are always so appreciative, so happy, so proud. And so we had won 41 straight. We won the 3 state titles, so however you want to preface the COVID team. And then we went 10-2 and got to Final 8 in state. And we had no Division I football players, no Division II football players. We played the best conference in the state. Everybody in our league had at least one, if not multiple guys. We had a great season. We won the conference championship. We were close to getting to the Final Four. We kind of overachieved, to be brutally honest. We had a bunch of linemen that weren't super big, but they were hard workers, weight room guys. But there was no 6'5", 300-pound lineman. And after the season ended, I was in Walmart and I ran into a dad, and good guy. He meant to be super positive, and he just said, hey, sorry about your season. It was really too bad you guys lost those couple of games. And up until 2015, Muskego had only won 10 games or more one time. So winning 10 games is a significant accomplishment in the conference we're in. I don't care what conference you're in. So that was been a new evolution for us as a coaching staff, and for me. Our expectations are higher, which is it's good and it's bad. It's good because the kids expect to win, but when you do lose, you got to make sure everybody stays positive and be grateful for what you have. And so it forces me to be even more positive and stay strong. And it makes our coaching staff really has to stick together even more. I think that's helped make us closer as a staff, to be honest.
Yeah, I really never thought about that. I think what you're saying essentially is that you're trying to keep your staff close because really everybody else wants to pick you guys apart at this point. They want to start to point the fingers. They want to start to say it's this guy's fault. He hired this guy, or this guy's lost his game. And that can really deteriorate people and eat at people if you guys aren't sitting there going, no, I believe in you. Like, we're okay. Yeah, we may not have the same result that we had 2 years ago, but it's a different set of circumstances. And I think that's critical. So, Coach, we're going to close out our time here together. And what I want you to do is do 2 things. Number one, what is one piece of literature that you felt has extremely impacted your career? And the second is, what is one piece of advice you would give to an aspiring head coach?
I would say literature-wise, recently, John Gordon has become kind of a big guy for me. He's one of the top leadership gurus. He's about positivity, not Pollyanna positivity, but being a positive person. And he's written a bunch of best-selling books. And so love his philosophies. I feel like I've taken on a lot of what he does. And then it's one thing I would say to an aspiring young coach is it's still family first. And when things are good at home, you're a better coach. So like for me personally, when I first started coaching, my wife would do the stats. And then eventually we went from 1 to 2 to 4 kids. So she was no longer able to do that. But I make a point every week during this season to take her on a date. Sometimes it might be 30 minutes at Cousins to get a sub, but I always make sure I find time for her. And I've noticed when we won state, we'll play 14 games. That's a long season, man. It's tough on the wives. And so I know sometimes the second round of the playoffs, she'll start to get a little, it's getting tough on the family. So there might be a Sunday where I'm like, I'm going to put football away for 5-6 hours and we're going to go somewhere. And we got a local casino in our community, kind of 20 minutes away. So she likes to, play slots. So I've taken her there. So, before Final 8 and state games, we've gone to concerts the night before. I think when you have a balance, you're a better coach. And when you just, believe me, I think the average person say I'm nutty. I'm 365 football, but I still find time for my family. And with 4 boys, again, what's the point of having kids if you're going to ignore them? And I think what I've done well is my kids were on the bus rides. My kids were in the locker room. My kids were in the weight room. There might be days that I'd be at school all day, weight room, and then I'd go coach them at youth sports at night. Our first state championship team in 2018, yes, because the season goes so long, I was coaching youth basketball practice at night. I ended up giving that up. I gave that up the next year. It was too much for me. But I just want to say to all the young guys out there or guys trying to turn around programs, when things aren't good at home, they're not going to be good at practice. So you got to make sure that you are having a balance. So I think that I have a great wife and she's super supportive and understands my situation. But I think that's something maybe unique I do that not everybody does. But so that'd be my advice to young coaches trying to turn programs around is your family's got to be joining with you at the hip. If you're going to do it, if you want to coach more than 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, right. You can burn yourself out in 4 or 5 and leave, have that family gone by the end of it.
Yep.
That's awesome, Coach. Thank you so much for your time, Coach. I greatly appreciate it. And we've learned so much from you in this time, and I can't wait to follow you more and hopefully be able to sit down over some Zooms and talk some wing tee football, baby.
Anytime, definitely. We've learned from so many coaches. Like I said, we've listened to your podcast. Coach Lucchese, my DC, is a big fan of you guys. We appreciate what you do for the game of football, and it's cool you're across the whole country.
I know.
We've kind of reached that point where our world is now. There isn't a lot of wing tee teams. We have made relationships with people in California, Colorado, Georgia, and thank you. I think your program kind of brings that on to help create that culture. So thank you for what you do for the game too. And it's a lot of fun. Thanks for letting me represent Muskego High School and Muskego football today.
You're welcome, Coach. Thanks so much.
That's a wrap for this episode of the Turnaround Series presented by CoachTube. Big thanks to our guests for sharing their insight on what it takes to rebuild a program and create a winning culture. Remember, if you're working to turn things around, having proven strategies and the right resources is a game changer. That's where CoachTube comes in. It's a technology platform designed to connect you with on-demand courses from top coaches, state associations, and charitable organizations. So keep learning, keep growing, and keep leading your team to success. And if you're a coach with knowledge to share, CoachTube makes it easy to create and distribute your own training content. Teach what you know, help other coaches, and build your brand. Visit CoachTube.com to explore courses or reach out to me, Keith, at CoachTube if you're ready to share your expertise. Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe and join us next time for more insights from the best in the game.